Hey y'all, welcome back to Zone 4. It's your boy Riley.
And it's been Barbie. And today is a very special episode of Zone 4. It's the 50th year anniversary of hip hop, and we're doing something very special with campus to celebrate that and to commemorate how important hip hop is. We have a lot of special things coming up for this episode, including interviews with Marco Cervantes, Shelby Stewart, and many, many more with familiar faces like myself and Terrell.
Yeah, so speaking of hip hop, when was the first time you was introduced to hip hop? What artist, what age, like when?
I mean, I think personally, maybe like from a young age, I'm a big fan of Beyonce, and y'all know she has so many songs with Jay-Z. And so when his raps would come on, like in her songs, I feel like that's the first verse I've ever memorized because I'm such a big fan of hers. But hip hop by itself, definitely like Nicki Minaj. When I found out who she was, that's when I started caring about hip hop, honestly, and like not caring about it, but paying attention to it.
I think my first time, I don't believe what age I was. I can't, I'm old child. But I think the first rapper was Eminem. I was like, who is this? He was just rapping so hard. I was like, who is this? Because Eminem, he rap hard, like he go hard. So I'm like, who is this man? Who is this Caucasian man? So, but I was like, yeah. I was like, yes, I like this. This is cool. So I just started listening to more and more Eminem songs, and then that's when more rappers came out. I was like, yeah, that's when I fell in love with hip hop.
It's your vibe.
Yeah, it was a vibe.
You're so funny. Like you said, Eminem, he raps hard and he raps about his personal experiences, and that's what hip hop is all about.
Right.
Especially hip hop in Texas. So I'm happy.
Texas got a whole different style. We got a whole where it's like hip hop, and then like hip hop that came from Texas, originated from Texas.
Exactly.
It's totally different.
Which is the point of the symposium that's happening as we speak. So make sure you guys don't go anywhere. Tune in for the rest of the episode because we have a lot of special treats for you guys.
Hey y'all, it's your boy Riley, and welcome back to Zone 4. Today we have a special guest for the Hip Hop Symposium of 50 Years of Hip Hop in Texas. We have DaLyah Jones. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
You having fun at the Hip Hop Symposium?
Absolutely.
You having a good time?
It's been a joy. This whole campus is a joy.
Okay, well, I won't take much time of you, so I've got a few questions to ask you. You worked extensively in journalism with the focus of historically disadvantaged communities in rural Texas. Could you share some of the most impactful stories or experiences from your career that highlights the importance of giving these communities a voice?
Yeah, to be honest, I can't really name one experience. I feel like all of those small experiences have kind of chipped and etched and molded my worldview about journalism. I think what I can say is like being in contact with folks who are impacted disparately, and hearing their stories and their narratives, and also realizing the medicine that comes with allowing them to tell their stories has been one of the most impactful things for me, right? So like on the panel, yesterday I mentioned how like I learned storytelling from like the preacher lady in my neighborhood, right? Like actually going to her house and sitting at her feet and like listening to her talk about Black history. And I oftentimes feel like with marginalized folks, we're so used to being ignored, we don't know how to tell our stories until somebody who looks like you comes into the room to actually listen. And what I've realized is that's sharing, there's a sort of cathartic healing that happens. And also when people also see themselves in you, it also encourages them to tell their stories as well. So
now some of y'all don't know this, but me and Miss Jones here is almost from we neighbors now. We neighbors now. Tell the people where you from.
I'm from Lufkin. Airtight, hold it down. East Mo, Beast Mo, always ETX, baby.
Now, if y'all don't know, Lufkin and Damo, they
right
beside
each other. They
sisters. They sisters, brothers, whatever they were. I don't know. But they right beside each other. So I was just so excited to interview her because I was like, yes, I'll finally get to sit down and talk to somebody who's very successful and coming from a small town from where I come from. So I'm just so grateful to sit here and have this conversation with you. But the next question is, I got you. Your background includes serving as the Director of Engagement and Staff Writer for the Texas Observer. What role did the Texas Observer play in advocating for social justice and issues impacting Texans? And how did your work contribute to this mission?
Yeah, I think that my experience there kind of was like twofold, right? I think it kind of showed me the importance of being a part of a progressive platform in Texas, and one of the only progressive platforms in Texas that's actually respected. And it also showed me the limitations of white-led media, right? And how if we are going to be talking about progressivism within in Texas, that has to be led by us. That conversation has to be led by us. But I will say it also gave me great investigative chops, right? So like learning how to do those deep digs, learning how to like do those like deep interviews that really get to like the nexus of like a great story. And then also I got to do reparative journalism there, right? It was community engagement that was centered more so around getting feedback from the community about how they felt about local media, what they wanted from local media, and then also some of the conversations that they wanted to center as well. And so some of that work was even done in Deep East Texas, right? In Nacogdoches, the oldest town in Texas, and also a place where there's a very high arrest rate for Black folks in general, and there's a lot of disparate outcomes, right? A history of removals there, a lot of history that a lot of folks don't know. And so it was really an honor to be able to go back home to essentially kind of do that work and kind of focus a lot of this reparative journalism mission within a part of the state that does not get enough attention.
Okay, one last question. Your roots in rural deep East Texas seems to be a significant part of your identity and work. How has your personal background influenced your dedication in telling the stories of rural communities and Black cowboys back at home in Deep East Texas?
I think that's a really good question. I would say that my background, so I think because of how I present today, people don't really understand what my background is. But I was raised like in Podunk, like Lufkin, Texas. You know what I mean? Like when I was growing up, I was living in the projects, right? Like, and I was like, you know what I mean? Like we were in the backcountry with like my grandparents, like, and my family's from St. Augustine, right? So like being in the summers, right? SA, right? Being in the summers in near houses where you don't lock the door at night because you don't have to, right? So like very, very humble beginnings. And so I think that that's what drives me, because I understood as a kid the importance of narrative and storytelling. And when you don't have that, the amounts of limitations that are put on you because you cannot see yourself outside of the boxes that people have created for you. And also, if you understand the history of East Texas, right, it's one of the most violent portions of the state for Black people historically. And also there were still old guards there, right? Generational white folks who still hold power in the community and will make sure that they are holding that power, right? And so when you don't have story, when you don't have narrative, when you are not told about the ways in which you can empower yourself, right? Then you're gonna stay where you are, right? And so I think once I realized like the fire and the strength in the written word, and also like translating stories, whether that be digitally, radio, TV, translating those narratives to people in a way that they can understand it, so that they can understand themselves. I think that's what grounds me in the work. And I'm weird. I'm a woo woo girl. So like like the spiritual, like the trees. The trees have always reminded me of my family. They've also reminded me of the stronghold that Black people are able to have in East Texas, despite all of the things that people have put on us as Black people, right? From like slavery, even to like segregation, even to like you know what I mean? Like redlining right now. Like right now we're seeing some of the same issues from like the 70s and the 60s still perpetuated in East Texas. It's where the old South starts, right? And so, yeah, I just think knowing that and growing up in that and understanding the risk of us not talking to each other and the risk of us not having our stories told is what really grounds me in the work.
I can legit sit up and talk to this woman all
I can
day.
talk to you all day.
Can you tell everybody your social media where they can meet you at,
Yeah.
talk to you at, communicate with you at?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at DaLyah Jones. And yeah, I'm not on Twitter anymore. So yeah, that's the best place to find me.
Okay, y'all. It's been nice talking to you.
You too.
We'll be right back with more interviews.
Hey, what up, guys? Welcome back to Zone 4, the 50th anniversary of hip hop special edition. I'm your host, Ben Barbie, and I'm here with two very special guests. We're blessed to have Kiana Fitzgerald and Waco Faniel here with us today. Thank you guys for joining us. So, Miss Kiana,
Yes.
can you tell us about your journey from earning a bachelor's degree in print journalism to becoming a freelance music journalist and cultural critic?
Sure. So I started out at Texas State. I thought I wanted to be a sports manager. Then I was like, no, I want to be a sports writer. And then eventually, toward the end of my undergraduate career, I was like, I think I want to do music writing. So I did a couple of showcase covers, and I was like, this could be something that I could do. So I ended up applying for an internship at NPR Music, and it was a digital media internship, and that really solidified for me that I was very interested in this area. I got my master's in new media and mass communication. So with the print journalism and that focus as well, I feel like I was just really well prepared to enter this world. And yeah, from that internship, I was able to finesse my way into other positions at NPR, and then I just kind of have been spinning the wheel since then. So yeah, I now freelance for quite a few different places, and it's a blessing.
Miss Make It Happen. We're going to speak on a lot of the things you guys have done because you guys are very accomplished. I spoke on that earlier. Mr. Faniel, your book, Hip Hop in Houston, The Origin and Legacy, delves into the history and significance of Houston's hip hop culture. What inspired you to explore this specific aspect of hip hop, and what are some key findings that you've uncovered?
Yeah, so this book started off as a seminar paper when I was in my master's program at Texas Southern. Then it went to a thesis, and then it became a book. And so I think the thing that inspired me is Houston was left out of the conversations about hip hop history, and what that does is if you erase people, then you make them and their culture insignificant. And so when we think about what is hip hop, it is made up of multiple regions and contributions. And for the last 20 years, I would argue that the primary contribution or the way that we understand hip hop is from Southern hip hop. And so I just wanted to make sure that that Houstonians, particularly Houston hip hoppers, and who I consider consumers and also creators of the art, were getting their just, and that they were not made insignificant. So when you're not included in the history textbooks, that is making one insignificant.
That's right. And going down here, because I'm from Chicago, so when I came here, they have a whole different style of hip hop that I never heard before. And I was like, wow, where have I been my whole life? Because, it's like drill music and really hard. But down here, it's Southern inspired and more flow based and nice beats. So I really vibe with that. Kiana, you're also an author, and in your debut book, Ode to Hip Hop, it explores 50 albums that define 50 years of trailblazing music. What inspired you to undertake this project, and what were some of the most impactful albums for you?
Sure.
You as well, Mr. Faniel.
So I was actually, I received a cold email from my editor, who I ended up working with on this book, and she was just like, hey, I think you have a really strong writing voice. Would you be interested in talking about potentially doing this book with us? So I think within the 1 or 2 days, we were on a video call. We were vibing, and we were able to tell pretty immediately that we were going to work together. So yeah, that it came to me. I'm very, very grateful for that. I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know what my first book would be. So this is what it ended up being. And the albums that really stand out to me are, Missy Elliott, Super Duper Fly, as well as UGK, Riding Dirty, Scarface, The Diary. And, I actually really appreciate Megan Thee Stallion's Traumazine. I know that, not everybody completely understands the things that she speaks about all the time, but it I locked in with it. So I wanted to put that as the last album in the book because I think it was just like a really nice encapsulation of what women MCs have to go through.
Especially because she's from Houston or
Exactly.
Texas.
Yeah.
How about you? What are some of your favorite hip hop albums?
So there hasn't been a day in my life where hip hop hasn't been around. So that list is long. So I would say Riding Dirty, Space Age Pimpin',
Yes.
Coming Out Hard, We Can't Be Stopped, Super Tight, The Day That Hell Broke Loose.
That's what Shells, right?
Yep. Volume 3, Hard Knock Life by Jay-Z, The College Dropout.
Period. I love that.
So many good
The
answers.
College Dropout. Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And 444, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Coloring Book.
You dropping some good ones now.
Right,
Y'all need to
right.
go and type these albums in if you want to know about some real hip hop.
Yes.
I did a presentation. I don't remember the name. Y'all probably are gonna know. It's Ice Cube, like maybe his first.
America KKK's Most Wanted?
No.
Okay.
Another one. Ugh, I really can't remember.
O'Shea Jackson.
Not Ice Cube. Dr. Dre.
Oh, The Chronic.
The Chronic.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did a presentation with in Dr. Blackwell's hip hop class. I took that class, and once I did the research on that, that's when I like started to listen to like more old school hip hop.
Yes.
So I'm definitely appreciating like how it started. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it's really important.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so my next question is going to be for Miss Kiana.
Yes.
Your work as a DJ adds another dimension to your engagement with music. How does DJing influence your writing and vice versa?
Thank you. I used to have like a radio show when I lived in New York, and I would do it like once a month. And it was like a 2-hour show, and I would just play whatever I wanted. I would have themes and things like that. But ever since I moved back to Texas in late 2019, I've only DJ'd, like I had gigs up in New York and stuff, but since I've been home, I've only had like one place to really DJ at, and it's like very sporadic. So I don't get to do it as much as I would love to, but I do make mixes, and I put them up on SoundCloud, and I feel like they really tell a story about like, you know, what's going on like in my life or in the world or whatever. I try to be very specific about the kinds of things that I put in those mixes. But yeah, I think it informs my writing because I'm able to think about music in this very, very in-depth way. And I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, just like my upbringing. My mom was a really big fan, and my brother and my sister are really big fans. So just that whole familial element of it, I think, is what drives a lot of what I do.
And speaking of your writing, you have credits in various renowned publications such as Billboard and Rolling Stone. How do you approach writing about music and culture in a unique, engaging way for those platforms?
Sure. So often I feel like I try to put a personal perspective into my writing. I know it's not always, you know, deemed acceptable by people because, you know, journalism specifically is supposed to be objective. And I just, as a black woman from the South, I don't think that that's possible. So, you know, I do, like the book itself, I have like an introduction that is very personal. My conclusion is very personal, but the albums within the book are very like, you know, aerial perspective, like this is just what the album is. So to that note, I feel like when I do have an opportunity to talk about my personal life, like my mental health or anything like that, I really try to do it because I feel like a lot of people don't know what's going on with themselves, and the more information that I can put out there, the more likely it is that people will pay attention.
Exactly. And it's like other people might feel the same way you do or vice versa.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
That's really good. Mr. Faniel, as a contributor to books like Religion and Hip Hop and Slow and Throwed, how do you see the relationship between hip hop and topics like religion and cultural perspective like affect your city, Houston?
Yeah, so in Houston hip hop, particularly Houston rap, there are existential questions that people are asking about their existence. There are questions about theodicy, meaning like, how can a good God allow evil to happen to? How can a loving God allow evil to happen to good people? I mean, people that are like that grew up deeply religious, and then that take on become Muslim or like other forms of religion, and so it plays out. And Houston is like the home for gospel, like hip hop, and so when I think about religion, I think about how people. This idea comes from Dr. Anthony Penn, a religious scholar at Rice University. But like religion at its core is the quest for what's called complex subjectivity, or like complex personhood. Like it's a striving to be like a person, like a personhood, and that can be through like traditional Orthodox religion, or that can be like hip hop can be considered a religion, or the academy or culture can be considered religion. And so like Houstonians are these themes show up in the music, but it also, they are creating, you asked me a question about culture, like these artists are creating culture or packaging culture. So it's a culture that's here, they're packaging in their raps, and it's delivered to the rest of the world.
Because hip hop is international. They're doing hip hop in Germany.
Yeah, right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that about hip hop and black people in general. We're like trendsetters.
Yes, trailblazers.
As we're talking about it, in the ever-evolving landscape of music and culture, Kiana, what trends or changes do you find most fascinating or concerning from a journalist standpoint?
Yeah, fascinating. I was just speaking with Maco and a couple other people about this earlier. Whenever I have my mental health episodes, I feel like I can really perceive what these artists are going through, and it makes me feel like the artists that I gravitate toward are like Southern artists for sure, but specifically Florida artists, Texas artists of course, but Florida has been my recent focus. And I hear like a lot of pain and trauma in their music, and it makes me want to listen, and it makes me want to like figure out like how can they be helped. Do they need therapy? Like when I was at Complex, I was going to do a piece about Floridians and their mental health, and I ended up leaving, but I still am very passionate about it because I think it's a very important thing to discuss, especially when we have so many new artists that are coming out and they sound similar. They sound similarly pained, and I'm very invested in trying to figure out like, how can those artists be helped?
I love that. And Mr. Faniel, I swear we're almost done, y'all. I really love this conversation, so I want to get y'all opinions on everything. Seriously.
All good.
Mr. Faniel, you frequently contribute your expertise as a public scholar on topics such as justice, equality, mental health, and pop culture. Can you share some of the most important messages or insights that you aim to convey to the public when speaking on those topics?
Yeah, I think that I'm ultimately trying to say that there's nothing wrong with black folks, and that systems and structures have circumscribed hopes and exposed black folks to premature death. And so the reason why I'm trying to say that is because racism is vicious, and the impact of racism on one's being and identity and mental health we don't think about. So when I'm talking about like racism, I'm not just talking about like a Klansman and like an overt racism. I'm talking about like school policies that are driven by racism, and how those school policies, like discipline policies or policies on what's being taught, that's vicious. Like when black people are not shown in the textbooks that is doing violence towards like black identity and it's propping up like white supremacy, or when we say that, oh, what's wrong with black people is they can't save money, but when like the truth is that like generational wealth was created by theft, and there is no amount of individual hard work that I can do as a black person to be able to make up for the wealth that white people have collectively.
Correct.
And so, I think that for me, like this knowledge, becoming a historian, this knowledge and has been salvific, meaning that there were messages that I received coming up and that a lot of black people receive. These are anti-black messages that we receive, and these anti-black messages have like a impact on our psyche. And so some theorists and like psychologists would argue that that all black people like should have a diagnosis of PTSD because of the viciousness of what we call white body supremacy, what white body supremacy has done across the world, but particularly like in how it interacts here. And so I want black people to, black people to be free, and I think part of that freedom comes by knowing that the stories that have been told about us, the narratives that have been told about us are that we're the problem is false. And so and in all of my work, I'm trying to I'm thinking about justice and thinking about people being free. And so I don't have like one thing that I'm most proud of. I mean, there's a lot of things that I do, but in all of it, I'm just trying to help like black folks black folks be free.
Wow, that's such a powerful conversation. OMG. Okay, and my last question for you, Ms. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Can you share any memorable experiences or challenges that you faced while covering events or interviewing artists in the music industry?
Yeah. I have interviewed an artist who I'm like on the fence about speaking about, like in terms of his name, but basically he was on the rise, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I was enamored by his music initially, and then I met him, and then I was interacting with his team, and I was just like, oh, this is not right. Like I feel under attack. So I ended up quitting a job behind that, and there were other things going on at that company as well that just weren't working for me. But that was a big challenge for me, and it ended up, kind of triggering me moving from New York back to Texas. I just needed to be somewhere like safe, and somewhere, just somewhere that I would be appreciated, because New York, I love it and I miss it for some, like in some ways, but it's a very hard and harsh city, especially for people who do have like predispositions for, psychological issues or whatever that means. So yeah, it's, that was a challenging thing that I went through, and I didn't really have the support that I needed. I don't have family up there or anything. So yeah, it was just really interesting to go through that and not really have the capacity to understand what was happening.
But kudos to you for being able to recognize that and, leave when you got to leave. Because some people, they stay in situations and it just turns left, even more left.
Yeah.
But before you guys go, I wanted to know, or I guess the viewers want to know, do you guys have anything you're promoting? Any books, projects, movies, music, anything like that? Please let us know so we can go buy it, support it, stream it, view it, all of it. Because I will.
Thank you. I released my first book, Ode to Hip Hop, which you mentioned, 50 albums that define 50 years of trailblazing music, in July of this year. And, it's my first baby. That's what I consider my child, because I'm not at that point. But yeah, it's I put a lot of love and heart into it, and I think a lot of people would get something from it, just learning about the historical origins of this genre. So yeah, go pick it up if you want to, or get it from a library or something.
Period. I will.
So my book, Hip Hop in Houston: The Origin and Legacy, can be purchased anywhere online where you purchase books, and then local bookstores in Houston. It's been out for a decade now, and I guess the other thing is, love yours is something
Always.
that I'm, trying to promote. There's a scholar by the name of Ivory Toldson who says that black people need black people who believe in black people enough to not believe what non-black people say about black people, or something like that. But so yeah, love yours.
Thank you guys for spreading these important messages, because they're definitely needed on this campus, especially because this is at the HBCU, and like we are going to be the next generation of black leaders.
Exactly.
So this is very important. Do you guys have social media or anything like that that our viewers can follow you at?
Yeah, I can be reached on all socials at Maco Faniel. That's Maco F as in Frank ANIEL.
You can find me on TikTok at my full name, Kiana Fitzgerald, and also Instagram. It's not my name, but it's Outfoxed. So it's OUTFOXXED. So yeah, I'll stick with those.
Perfect. And so make sure you guys go support, follow, all of that. And once again, thank you guys for coming and being a part of our special anniversary Zone 4 episode of 50th year of Hip Hop Texas Made. And when we come back, we're going to have some more special guests. So don't go anywhere. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Hi, welcome back to Zone 4. I'm your host, Essence Hill, and I'm here with Lance Scott Walker today. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How about you?
I'm doing great today. It's a little muggy, kind of adjusted the mood, but other than that, it's been a pretty good day. So, what's some things you can say about yourself off the top? Like, what do you have to, like, what are your achievements right now? What are you feeling really comfortable with? How are you how do you think you're doing for yourself at the moment?
Doing okay. You know, we had a panel earlier today as part of the hip hop symposium, and it's over with. So once it's over with, you kind of take a deep breath, and it's been beautiful to be here at Prairie View and to see the culture.
Have you
here.
enjoyed the campus?
I've enjoyed the campus very much. Yeah, I was here yesterday also, and it's just a really particular vibe and a particular energy here, and I love being a part of it. It's a blessing to be here.
That is great. I've been enjoying it. Like as a student, seeing other people like enjoy the campus and see what we've been like around so long, to see other new people here, it's like a 10 out of 10 for me. Like I love seeing people enjoy like the environment that we have that we're providing. Yeah. But today I do have a few questions for you, so that way our guests can get to know you along with myself as well. So to start off, I see that you have a few books. One is called Houston Rap, and the other is called DJ Screw Life in Slow Rotation. It delves into the history and culture of hip hop. What inspired you to explore these topics?
Well, I grew up with hip hop. You know, I'm 50 years old, and hip hop, as we know now, is 50 years old. So when I was 10 years old, that's when hip hop really kind of broke nationwide for a lot of people. So I grew up with it, but I had a friend who was a photographer who was working on a project for documenting, Houston hip hop. And after working on it as just a photo project for a little while, he heard so many stories that he said, you're a writer, you should come on board with me and work on this project. And I was writing for the Houston Chronicle then, so that's how it kind of came to be. And I was already in love with the music, but then I realized through working on the project how much I didn't know and how big of a task it was. And so it's kind of become my life's work in a lot of ways.
Okay. So personal question, do you prefer Houston hip hop over any other hip hop?
I absolutely prefer Houston rap over anything else. Yeah, 100%. I lived in Houston I'm from Galveston, but I lived in Houston from 1992 until 2006. Okay. So I'm Houston all the way. Having love for Houston in general is what really, that's what really made me pursue the project, because I wanted to do something for Houston to document, what hadn't been documented in the way that I knew it could be.
Okay. Yeah. I'm very into with Houston. I love Houston rap over any rap. I love the way that, even though they call it what's so crazy is being like from Houston, my mother hates when people say anything else is chopped and screwed when it's not by DJ Screw himself.
Your mother is absolutely correct.
Yes.
It can't be chopped and screwed. It cannot be chopped and screwed. It can be slowed and chopped. And, she brings up a great point, because it is a fantastic art form. Yes. And it is an art form that everybody has a little different take on. Every DJ who does it, nobody does it the way DJ Screw did it. Not just because he did it with vinyl to cassette, but nobody has the same feel that he did. And I think that's what's great about it.
It's I feel like with Screw music, it helps you think. I don't know. Yeah. For me, I love to use it when I do my homework. Yeah. Kind of opens up my mind a little bit. I don't know. Yeah. But I have another question for you as well. So I see you have a few other publications that are just mainly music and culture, but you also have some other ones with journalistic takes. So can you share some of your most memorable moments and stories and experiences you've had with writing these books and journals?
Oh, wow. Oh, there's a lot. The thing is, there's a lot of kind of tiny anecdotes throughout the years, but I really feel like I've grown as a person through this work, getting to hear the stories of the people that I've interviewed and to hear their testimony, hear the things that they've gone through in their lives. A lot of them are about my age, Jay-Z, Bun B, Scarface, we're all right around the same age. And so, but very much different experiences of growing up. I grew up on the country end of Galveston, Texas, and moved to Houston and lived in a very different neighborhood than a lot of the people I write about. So, plenty of little things come to mind that I probably can't say on television. But, I just say that, like, overall, it's really absolutely changed my life.
That is like literally 10. I don't know. It's a 10 out of 10 from like this interview. 10 out of 10 right now, because the way like the moments that you're sharing right now, I kind of feel it. Even though I've always been called the old soul myself, but like hearing what you're saying and knowing that I felt some of the same things, especially even though I've never even met half of these people that you've had the experience of meeting, but like hearing that they're feeling hearing that you feel how I feel, kind of like warms my heart a little bit, it's to say the least. Yeah, well, especially knowing where you come from, because I'm from like the south side of Houston. So hearing that you're like from Galveston and knowing like that's kind of the area where because I know that Bun B is from
Port Arthur.
Port Arthur, and I know like they're kind of like right there. So knowing that all like really everything comes full circle. Is like
Galveston, at least when I was growing up, we got our culture from Houston. We heard music because people came from Houston to go to the beach. And they'd bring their cassettes with them, and so that's what I remember in high school hearing the early Ghetto Boys, and Raheem and Royal Flush and groups from Houston. So it's you're in the kind of orbit of Houston. You're going to pick up on a lot of stuff from Houston.
And last question for you. So, what are some key lessons that you've learned about the Houston hip hop scene, and what are some knowledge you would like to inform us about as a writer and a journalist in the field of music?
You can cut your own path. Houston hip hop has taught me that it's your journey, and this is true for when you think about all the different artists in Houston. They've all really cut their own path. Sometimes it means that they've got their own record label. Sometimes that means that they produce everything themselves, or whatever it may be, or maybe they manage other artists and they're working on bringing up younger generations. But my path through journalism is different than every other journalist that I know, and their path is different than mine. Everybody's got their own path, and that said, I think the more stories you hear, the more you get inspired by those paths, and because you see yourself in one little speck of somebody's journey, even if it's really different. And that's what I mean with saying, learning the testimony of everybody that I've interviewed over the years. Our journeys are very different, but there's always these little things that kind of pop through that you just end up connecting with, and like I was saying earlier, you learn from, and that, all of our journeys are going to be different, but we can all learn from each other's little things along our journeys. Okay,
and honestly, another personal question.
Yeah.
So, what is one of your favorite Houston hip hop songs?
Wow.
Because it's a lot.
It is a lot. There's a lot, and I could give you a different answer. If you ask me 5 times, I give you 5 different answers, maybe 6 different answers. I'm going to go with the most recent one I heard because they were just playing music in the studio there. 25 Lighters is one that I love, because if you know the story of the song and how it came together and how unlikely and sort of supernatural that song was, and how many things had to happen right for that song to even happen at all.
Because I know especially with the way that technology is advanced today, back then, I know it was 10 times it's more difficult to do what we take us 10 seconds to do. Probably took them 3 days to do.
Exactly.
So I know that I feel as though they put their whole, even though people probably just think it's just rap, it's just talk. I feel like they actually put some of their emotions and their feelings and their stories into all of this music.
Big time.
And I feel like you have to really listen to hear like their stories.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I enjoy about what you do. Like you're like you listen. You have to listen to what they're saying, how they're being brought up, and everything, and you just put it on a little platform for us.
Yeah.
And that way we can hear their stories through you and have your perspective as well.
My perspective is connective tissue, but the main thrust of my work, the really intentional part of my work, is to put those voices out there in their own words at length, so you can really hear their stories and see them in the work, and to where when they read it on the page, hopefully they see themselves in the work.
Yes, it kind of inspired me. I kind of want to pick up a little journalism a little bit. I kind of
think you're on the right track.
I kind of like the basis of what you do, like to just hear other people and hear how they think and how they feel, and just to put it out there for them. Like, but that's all my questions that I have for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed this interview, because I definitely did.
I most definitely did.
I'm your host, Essence Hill, and I'm here with
Lance Scott Walker.
We'll be right back on Zone 4, and we'll see y'all later.